My name is Zoliswa Nongauza. I am the facilitator for today's session. Out of all the titles that I have, the one that is most relevant for today is that I am a Stokvel enthusiast. I am obsessed with everything Stokvels, hence I find myself in this space. This is because I grew up in and around Stokvels, and I have seen the power that Stokvels can unlock for individuals, for communities, as well as for organizations across various industries. My job today is very simple. It is to ask questions, a whole lot of questions, and then to just sit back and enjoy being schooled and educated by the panel of Stokvel experts that we have in our program today. So just to give you an idea of what you can expect from today's session, we will be tapping into the latest trends in the Stokvel landscape. We are going to talk about the first ever Absa Stokvel Awards, where we will get all the details about the inaugural Absa Stokvel Awards, where Stokvels can win their share of 1 million rands in cash prizes. And not only that, each person who nominates a Stokvel can get up to 2,000 rands just for submitting a nomination. So even before the major prize towards the end of the awards nomination period, you can still stand a chance to win yourself a slightly smaller prize up to the value of 2,000 rands. Now, on this point specifically, please take note of the link that is shared at the top of the screen. This is the URL or the link to the nominations page for the Absa Stokvel Awards. We are going to dive into this discussion a little bit later on, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody notes the link at the top of the page. We will also be posting the link in the chat box or in the Q&A box just to make it even easier for you to click and be redirected to the nomination page. The link again is absa.co.za at Stokvel Awards. absa.co.za at Stokvel Awards. We will also learn about some fundamentals for long-term success of Stokvels. I also want to ask that if you have any questions and or comments, please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom. We are going to tackle the questions as well as the answers thereof towards the last portion of the session. We want to make sure that we cover the full discussion so that if there's any questions that you still have that would not have been addressed during the course of the discussions, then you're more than welcome to ask that question towards the end of the session. Okay. All right, so without any further delays, let us get started. Our first guest speaker for tonight is Busi Skenjana. So just a little bit of background about Busi Skenjana. Some of us call her Busi. She is the founder of Stokvel Academy, established in 2015. The Stokvel Academy is a division of BSK Marketing, which is a below-the-line strategic agency that works with the Stokvel community throughout South Africa. Busi is passionate about the development of Stokvels, hence she formed the Stokvel Academy. And this was with the sole purpose to develop Stokvels holistically by providing a formal learning platform. The Stokvel Guru, as Busi is referred to, uses her Stokvel life and marketing experience to inspire a generational change, as she has been part of various Stokvel groups for over 42 years. Busi, welcome, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for gracing us with your presence tonight.
Thank you, Zoli. Thank you, and thank you very much. And thanks to Absa for this historical Stokvel event. Thank you, and good evening to everyone.
Fantastic. Busi, so just to start with you, I will be introducing our other guests later on. Busi, a new online and video-based study by the research agency Ipsos has revealed that South Africa's 50 billion rand Stokvel sector, made up of more than 800,000 Stokvel groups and 11 million members, is a vast network of dynamic human banks in the South African economy. These numbers are not new. However, this update from Ipsos study is telling us that the Stokvel sector remains incredibly relevant in terms of size, as well as contribution to South Africa's economy. My question for you, Mambusi, my first question is, what are some of the biggest shifts and changes you have seen in terms of how Stokvels operate, particularly post the COVID-19 pandemic? Has anything changed at all, or has it all remained the same from a Stokvel landscape?
Thank you, Zoli, for giving us that brief background. And indeed, Stokvel segment is quite massive. I think that's why Absa has actually partnered with us today, and actually in this, amazing historical event of recognizing Stokvels. So the fact that we are today celebrating the first Absa Stokvel Awards, it just shows you the magnitude of the size of Stokvels, which are actually not declining. Stokvels are evolving. You look pre-COVID, post-COVID, Stokvels are just growing in leaps and bounds. Obviously, there are changes. The younger generation is more active. We still have the older generation at the bottom of the pyramid. So what I'm observing, and actually this is actually supported as well by numerous studies that have been conducted by different institutions, even academic institutions, that Stokvels are there, and they are actually looking forward to actually creating wealth for themselves. That's one thing that is buzzing now. Stokvels are looking for knowledge, especially financial knowledge, is one thing that is sticking out. Wherever you engage with Stokvels, be it on social media, be it on a face-to-face basis, Stokvels are just looking for information as to how they can, grow and develop themselves, which is actually the reason why we're actually having this webinar. I know all the Stokvel members that are attending this webinar, they're actually looking to enriching their lives using the tried and tested Stokvel model.
Thank you, Mambusi. I just wanted to also understand, what would you say are the top 3 learnings or wisdom nuggets that you can share that can help Stokvels stand the test of time from a forward-looking perspective?
Zoli, over a number of years engaging with Stokvels, we've realized that one of the things that Stokvels are battling with is sustainability. Stokvels are started with good intention. We all know that it's trust, we are friends, we are family and all that. But sustaining Stokvels, it does become a bit of a challenge. So my advice is that before you even join a Stokvel or start a Stokvel, look at your sustainability strategy, if I may call it that way. And one key component is the team. Stokvel is made up of a group of people. It could be 3 people. You must all be aligned, have the same vision. And my observation, unfortunately, sometimes people join Stokvels out of emotions, just out of excitement because there's a heart. So it is extremely important, like any other business, that we look at the team. Leadership is very important. One example that I like making, if, for example, you've been appointed as the treasurer, as they call it, your task is not just to take money, collect it, if you're still collecting it, and taking to the bank. You have to now start, looking strategically. How can you financially ensure that your Stokvel grows, which is, I think, it's one of the things that Absa is going to be sharing with us today, to recognize that Stokvels that are progressive in terms of, how do they manage themselves financially. So point number 1, sustainability is extremely important, and investing in yourselves as a Stokvel, learning. I find that lots of Stokvels, they actually don't know what they don't know, and what I mean by that, because you form the Stokvel out of whatever reasons, they tend to relax and say, we know it all, I'm the founder of the Stokvel. Seek information, but not just information, credible information from reliable sources. work with your banks. We are here today with Absa supporting us. Ensure that you work with credible financial people in whatever venture that you want to embark on. So it is sustainability, and it is actually making sure that you invest in terms of learning. To me, those, I think, the two important legs of a Stokvel. It's knowledge and teamwork. And of course, we look at other things. What are your goals? How do you achieve your goals? There's many other elements, but I think it starts with the team first, and it starts with, what information that you actually amass amongst yourselves as the Stokvel. Just quickly, just to get out of that one. We know that the latest buzz about Stokvels is Stokvels and property investment. Oh my good gracious me. Everyone is just going Stokvels and property. But that's a very broad topic. Again, work with your banks, work with your professional people before you even begin to go that way in terms of investing.
Wow, thank you, Mambusi. I see that we've had a couple more people join. I just want you to just quickly recap like some of the key trends that you saw just post-COVID. Can you just touch on that again for some of the people who joined a little bit later? Because I think they might have missed some nuggets there, because we're not going to come back to that.
One key thing that is coming up, Stokvels are hungry for financial knowledge. Financial illiteracy, unfortunately, is very high among Stokvels. And then we may not see it because we see Stokvels as savings groups. And the fact that we're still talking about savings, Stokvels we should be talking about Stokvels and investment. So financial illiteracy is still extremely high among Stokvels. And there is denial because we've got so much money. So how can you call us financially illiterate people? And yet the fact that they're not able to sustain themselves, amongst other things, is because of the lack of financial knowledge. So that's one thing that I'm observing, that there's lots of inquiries that we get at Stokvel Academy. How can I start a Stokvel? How can I sustain my Stokvel? How can I do this to actually make my Stokvel grow? Stokvels are actually hungry for financial knowledge. And from a gender perspective, we see that women have always been very active in Stokvels. And post-COVID, we are seeing that even in our social media, there are more women who are actually using Stokvels as an empowerment tool for themselves. It's no longer that social cohesion, is that how can we actually better our lives outside our households? How can we also contribute in this investment platform as women?
Oh, thank you, Mambusi. Thank you so much for that. A quick reminder for anyone who joined slightly late to please check out the link at the top of the screen and also in the Q&A box. So the link is absa.co.za/Stokvel Awards. This is where you can learn about everything Absa Stokvel Awards and also nominate your favorite Stokvel while you're at it. A reminder again that there's 2,000 rands up for grabs just for submitting a nomination. Now, speaking of the Absa Stokvel Awards, let us get some in-depth details about these. Our next guest speaker is Palesa Lingwalo, who is from Absa. A quick introduction about Palesa. Palesa has over 14 years experience in financial services in the fields of accounting, investments, and banking. She has been part of the Stokvel community for over 8 years and has even written a book specifically on Stokvels. She currently looks after the group savings portfolio, which includes clubs, Stokvels, families, and informal group savings at Absa. A very warm welcome to you, Palesa. Thank you for honoring us today. We are extremely excited about getting a detailed download about the first ever Absa Stokvel Awards. Welcome, Palesa. You're on mute.
Good evening, Zoli. Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be part of an initiative that finally rewards Stokvels, especially from a financial institution perspective. So I can't wait to deep dive on how can Stokvel and Stokvel members, even non-Stokvel people, can really nominate deserving Stokvels.
Thank you so much, Palisa. Now, we have seen this exciting news on, on social media and other traditional media platforms. And Palisa, you are part of the team that is behind the first ever Absa Stokvel Awards. I want to quickly quote an excerpt from the Absa Stokvel Awards nomination page, and it reads as follows. At Absa, we see more than just numbers and transactions. We see the heartbeat of a nation pulsating with the rhythm of shared dreams and collective aspirations. Now, when I read the statement, I had goosebumps, a little bit of a hair-raising experience, because when I read that statement, I could actually see the faces of Stokvels and Stokvels people in this statement. And I really felt that for Absa to truly recognize this, not only with words, but also with actions, by launching the inaugural Absa Stokvel Awards, it is quite refreshing and groundbreaking. So, Palisa, can you just tell us what are these awards and why now specifically?
So this is a very exciting initiative, and I would really encourage the Stokvel community to really take opportunity of this, because it hardly takes. This is not a typical competition, but it is to celebrate the significance that the Stokvels play in South African communities. But Stokvels are not just savings groups. They symbolize a collective empowerment. They symbolize financial inclusion. They symbolize community support. So as Absa, recognizing their contribution and the aim to honor the spirit of Ubuntu inspires more people to participate in this tradition of savings. We all know, we all have Stokvel stories, directly or indirectly. With this initiative, is saying those stories matter, and we want to celebrate the collective empowerment that you've been doing for many years. But even those that are not in this collective or group savings circles, that this is an alternative way of also saving. And even in this community, they are being celebrated to fuel the success of their community goals. So we're literally fueling by funding your common goals if you participate in the Absa Stokvel Awards.
Interesting. Thank you for that, Palisa. And what's in it for people to enter? Why should they care about nominating Stokvels of their choice? What's the benefit? Can you just elaborate a bit on that?
I think in many industries, we always see that you have to use your own money to fund your projects or to invest. You can use the bank's money to do these things. We are finally saying, even you Stokvels, you don't have to depend on your Stokvel contributions in order to reach your common goals. You can take opportunities in initiatives like this that can fund and increase your capital to be able to do that. So this is a way of funding and assisting you reach your common goals. So you don't only have to depend on what you have saved as a Stokvel. You can get a boost with this, and you can get up to 100,000 if you win a category. But overall, there's a whole million that Stokvels get to share on for this initiative. So I think it's a great opportunity, and with the categories that are on there, we talk to specific common goals of Stokvels. So find the one that mostly identifies with you, and take a chance of getting free money to fund your common goals as a group.
Who doesn't want free money? And speaking of the categories, Palisa, can you give us an idea of what are some of the categories that people can nominate their favorite Stokvels for? And how many categories are there in total? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's about 9 categories in total, but I'll tell you my favorite ones. I grew up in where Stokvel were really doing great things for the actual community. So one of the categories there is pest community impact. These are the Stokvels that are not only saving to benefit themselves, but the Stokvels that are helping the communities that they operate on, the Stokvels that are uplifting whether it's an NGO or the charitable organizations that are helping and using that money. With the Absa Stokvel Awards, we say we want to amplify that by doing that. We also have seen quite a great growth of a lot of people saving together to travel in different countries, access to tourism and internationally and and locally is no more reserved for just people that can afford it on their individual capacity. So we're saying if you're a travel club or you have a leg in your Stokvel where you get to see places that you haven't been to and you're saving together, there is a Best Travel Club award for you. And of course, we see that as a digitally lead bank, we'd really like to encourage Stokvels, especially post-COVID, to Mambusi's point. We encourage Stokvels to really use digital means to manage Stokvels for convenience and safety and transparency. We want to recognize Stokvels that have really embraced using digital platforms. So we want to showcase those Stokvels that are digitally empowered. Hence, there is also a category that is the best digitally empowered Stokvel. But of course, for inclusive sake, as you know, these awards are open to everybody, regardless of where you bank. Like any other awards, what would be awards without the Stokvel of the Year? So what we would like to hear, what is this great thing that your Stokvel has done that you think you deserve to be under that category, whether you are a burial society, whether you save for something we've never heard of, but you are saving legally, and you meet the minimum criteria, take a chance to nominate yourselves and get your members to nominate for you for the Stokvel of the Year Awards. So these are not only coming with just the actual award thing, but it comes with the cash prize to actually fuel whatever you are saving for as a group.
Fantastic. Thank you, Palisa. There's a question I just want to club with the one I have because I think they're related. So just to reiterate, who is eligible to enter, how they enter, and also do they have to pay for the nomination or in order to nominate? So if you can address those, because I think they're closely related. Yeah.
Well, I like that's a very good question because it's free to nominate, but instead we actually pay you for nominating. So just for nominating, you have a chance of winning up to 2,000 for nominating. So you don't have to be in a Stokvel to nominate. But I do know in South Africa, since Stokvels are a proudly South African way of saving, you know at least one Stokvel that deserves this 100,000. We encourage people to look at the different categories and see if there's a Stokvel that they know fit that. It's free. You go to the website www.absa.co.za/Stokvel Awards, and a very short form, less than 5 minutes. You put in the nomination there, and you nominate that deserving Stokvel. Plus, for following and completing the nomination process, you are being rewarded with a chance of 2,000. This is just to encourage people to nominate deserving Stokvels that are out there.
Thank you for clearing that for us as well as the audience. I saw that each Stokvel can walk away with as much as 100,000. What are your thoughts on how Stokvels can use their winnings?
So depending on what your Stokvel does, and we've got a range of Stokvels, and this was done quite carefully. Firstly, seeing what has been the types of stokvels that have been out there all along in the past, the type of stokvels that are coming up as stokvel industry evolves, but also the futuristic type of stokvels. So these accommodate the tradition of stokvels that we know of in the past, what people are doing or how people are using stokvels in this day, and how we see stokvels of the future also participating. So, for example, if you nominate for the most innovative or the most innovative investment stokvel, for that and you get 100,000, say you win the 100,000, and that 100,000 you can use to exactly fuel whatever you're trying to invest in, because you're an investment stokvel. And we do know that for any transaction, whether you want to invest, whether you want to get into a venture, you do need a specific account to be able to that. Hence, we've got the investment club account that will be able to enable you when with your winnings, you put your money in there, and when you are ready to invest it to your venture, if you're under that or whatever common goal you are able to move it from the bank account to that. But most importantly, in order for stokvels to enable themselves to get into these different opportunities, they need specific accounts that speaks to that, and these are some investment club is one of the accounts that they can use to be able to send this money where it's supposed to work for them.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Balis. And I mean, speaking about fueling for stokvels and investments, I think it makes sense for me to bring in our next guest speaker. Her name is Kurula Baloyi. She is an Allen Gray Fellow and an investment professional working across listed, private, and venture capital, covering a variety of sectors and geographies across Africa. She holds a BCom honors in financial analysis and portfolio management, and is currently a master's in fintech candidate at the University of Cape Town. From both her professional and educational background, she saw inefficiencies and opportunities to create more inclusion and impact in the asset management industry by starting her company, Someone Investments, which is an award-winning Stokvel investment platform for underrepresented groups, a testament to her creative and innovative spirit within financial services. A warm welcome to you, Kurula. It is an absolute pleasure to have you with us this evening.
Good evening, Zoli. Good evening to everyone online. Thank you so much to Absa and Stokvel Academy for having me tonight.
Thank you, Kurula. Now, the Absa Stokvel Awards are shining a spotlight on the incredible achievements of Stokvels, as well as the individuals who fuel the success of Stokvels. From your perspective, which categories do you think best talk to this, as you work with Stokvels and you are one of those individuals?
Yes, it's a good question. Thank you for that. You know, there are numerous categories included in these Absa Awards, but three stood out for me particularly. Obviously, I'll have to say the investment Stokvels, given that I'm an investment professional. So absolutely love investment Stokvels. And, you know, what's interesting about investment Stokvels is that we're seeing more and more of them pop up as Stokvels evolve over time. You know, Stokvels are looking for innovative investment opportunities. We're seeing Stokvels purchase property. We're seeing Stokvels into the stock market. You know, we're seeing alternative financing models as well, where Stokvels are saying, hey, can we fund businesses in our communities? Can we purchase assets like delivery bikes and livestock and see how those assets make money for us? So it is really interesting to see how, you know, Stokvels are using the resources around them to start investing, as well as emerging companies that are providing Stokvels with investments. One of the other ones is the digitally empowered Stokvels. You know, in recent years, particularly because of COVID, we saw a rise of Stokvels using digital tools, either to transact, to engage, or to even manage their Stokvels, which is great to see. You know, and these tools vary from, you know, whether it's a WhatsApp or a Facebook group to, you know, websites, applications, And there are even use cases for blockchain for Stokvels, so it is quite broad and vast. And one of the things I like about that particularly is we're seeing the youth getting involved. And youth are now saying, let's move away from pen and paper. Let's find ways that work for us. And I think the youth are really driving the digitally empowered Stokvels. They even call them digital Stokvels now, some of them. So it's quite great to see, that trend progressing over time. And hopefully we can see more and more young people get involved and innovate the space. And I think using technologies is one of the ways in which we can do that. And then lastly, and I think possibly also most importantly, are the community impact Stokvels. What are Stokvels if not for impact? I think looking back at my background and my first experience with Stokvels from home, we see the impact that Stokvels have in communities, whether it's just a family at home, whether it's an individual or the entire community. And, awarding Stokvels that have community impact is absolutely crucial, and absolutely here for that. And it's great ways for us. I mean, it's such a big part of what we do in our Stokvels. How can we, move beyond ourselves? So it would be great to award those Stokvels. Yeah.
Thank you, Kurula. I feel like I need a separate educational session on investments. Just a quick reminder again, for anyone who may have missed this, the link for the Absa Stokvel Awards nomination page is displayed at the top of the screen that you're looking at. The link is absa.co.za/Stokvel Awards. This is where you can learn about everything related to Absa Stokvel Awards and put yourself in line to get 2,000 rands just for submitting a nomination. We've also shared the link for a quick click through in the chat box, in the Q&A box. Please just check it out. Kurula, just to continue with you quickly, what would you say is important for Stokvels to take advantage of opportunities, that will increase their capitals? What should they keep in mind from an investment perspective?
Yeah, I think, an opportunity to gain additional capital, particularly if the capital is free. I think everybody should jump on that. It's very rare you hear about free money. So if a bank like Absa wants to give you some money, I mean, it's a great opportunity, especially for Stokvels, because it increases their financial stability as well as the opportunity for growth. I mean, there's so much pressure on Stokvels, or probably even desire for Stokvels to move from just being consumers to producers in the economy. And that can get very difficult because many Stokvels are still structured to be survivalist Stokvels. It's very difficult to go and tell someone that they shouldn't buy groceries at the end of the year. They need to feed their families. They need to build homes to house their families. They need to take their children to school. They need to bury their loved ones. And that's why we're seeing those kind of Stokvels thriving. But when you have additional capital, it empowers Stokvels to move beyond the day-to-day of, okay, this is why we started, to saying, okay, our survivalist needs are taken care of. How can we start thinking about growth? Are there investment opportunities we can see? Maybe we can purchase property. Maybe we can partake in investment in the stock market and other initiatives like that. And then Stokvels can start thinking about growth. And that's what this capital provides Stokvels an opportunity to do.
Very interesting. Thank you for that perspective, Kurula. I am going to just quickly move to some of the questions that we received. If you can just give me a sec. So I think this question is, it can be addressed to either one of you ladies, but maybe we can start with you, Kurula, on addressing this one. There's a question from Mpati, I believe. I would like to inquire whether it is permissible to use Stokvel funds for micro-lending in South Africa. If so, could you please provide information on the regulations and guidelines that need to be followed? I think maybe between Kurula and Palisa. Kurula, let's start with you and get your perspective on this question. And then Palisa, please, you are free to follow on after Kurula.
Yeah, I mean, I love that question because it means that as Stokvels, we're starting to think about what next, Microlending does become a bit tricky in a sense that if it's private capital, i.e. if it's your own money and you're lending it out, it's different from if you're trying to be like an institution. And then in that point, you're kind of taking on the role of a bank. And then you are going to, have licensing requirements, because the FSCA requires you to now be a financial service provider. There are regulations in terms of the national credit regulation that you may need to follow. So it's one thing if you're lending within your stokvel, which is okay. I know you, you know me, it's our money, we have a circle of trust. It becomes trickier now when you're lending to the general public, people that you don't know. If you're advertising and now you're giving out loans as, Stokvel A, that can get very tricky very quickly. So I would I would side on caution, like a bit of caution in that, but it's not impossible. I mean, you can do your research. There are stokvels that have tried to do that and overcome those barriers, but it is going to be a lot trickier than putting it in a savings account, for example.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kurula. Palisa?
So I think Kurela has perfectly covered it. I think it's very important as stokvels to be able to know what you can do and what you can't in terms of permissible, and in terms of regulating. But I like the thinking of thinking bigger of lending. We all know that there's a lot of stokvels that lend to their members. And just to reiterate to Kurula's point, when you are lending within your stokvel, your members, that is still fine. The minute you are lending people that are not your members, then you are then playing on the regulation side of things, where you're gonna need the likes of FSCA and NCR registration, because now you are almost operating as a business that needs that license. So take opportunity of things you can do within the stokvel limitations, and which we want to expand, do it the right way. We really want to protect this group savings and the genuinity of it, and we want to do things right in order to be sustainable and be the of the future.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Palisa. I think while I still have you, there's a question that I believe is related to the awards. And this is from Tumelo Pitso. I would like to know, what if the stokvel is a new kid on the block, so to speak? It has not yet made a big impact on the social sphere, but on paper promises to have a big impact as time goes. Will it be considered for a chance to walk away with that prize?
Yes, so I like ambitious stokvels. First of all, if you don't bank with Absa, you do need to have been operating for 6 months in order to qualify for the criteria. But tomorrow, if you go open a bank account with Absa, then you automatically qualify. You don't even need the 6 months, which means we are also open to accept stokvels that just started with such ambitions. Of course, when it comes to adjudication, in terms of what have you done, what you want to do, how you can motivate, what is on paper, it will depend on those things. But in terms of automatic qualification, if you're part of us, you do qualify, you meet the criteria, you don't need to be 6 months in existence. And if you're not, you still are welcome to do that, but you would need to have been in existence for at least 6 months, because then we don't have control of stokvels that are outside of us in terms of how they are operating and what they are doing legally and their stokvel business. But when you are banking with the bank, there is a bit of that paperwork that shows what you are doing with your stokvel money. But to answer your question, you are welcome even if you are a new stokvel, especially ambitious stokvel like this, because we speaking of what these categories also speak of is what we would like stokvels to do in the future. So if your stokvel in the future would like to impact, but they haven't started, who knows? For that category, you might be meeting some of the process.
Sure. Okay. No, thank you. Thank you for that, Palisa. It's very clear. The next question, I would like to throw it Mambus's way. This is from Lindy Dlamini. I mean, she's phrased it in the sense of a comment, but I think you can get the gist of what she's trying to ask. So she says, this is Lindy Lamini. Hi, I am looking for a vigorous stokvel, one that has a strong vision and mission. For example, should share my dreams of saving to travel, renovate or build properties. I used to run stokvels, but we moved on to our separate ways. Now I can't find a good one. Those were good because I was in charge of them. I suppose what Lindy is asking Mambusi is, what criteria can she now use in terms of trying to find the right stokvel, and how can she go about it? So I'm throwing this at you as someone who has worked with stokvels for decades.
Okay, thanks for that question, Lindy. And as I said, this is a very pertinent question. One of the common questions that we often ask, how to start a stokvel. And you'd think that everyone knows how to start a stokvel, but it's not as simple as all that. And I always say, let's not complicate it. People think that a stokvel, you have to be 10, You can just be the 3 of you. Remember, the most important thing is the vision. You need to share the common vision of traveling, for example, together, renovating your homes, investing in property, whatever the case may be. It can be a bit of a challenge, for example, to get 10 people to think the same way. 10 is not a lot of people, but it can be a lot of people. For example, I belong to 2 property stokvels. And one of them is only the 3 of us. And of course, yes, we bank with Absa Palisa. And this stokvel was actually formed by 3 friends in a social setting. We were having a conversation and we realized that, guys, how about starting, a stokvel and buy a property? It was a much quick, easy decision to make. And within a month, we tick all the boxes. You looked at our finances, because that's another important thing. Please, let's park the emotions a bit. Stokvels tend to be a bit emotional, and, just be realistic about your financial situation. Are you aligned in terms of finances? Are you aligned in terms of your life stages, where you are, your responsibilities and all that? So my answer to Lindy, just look for people, don't go too far, It could be family. That's another thing that we don't actually, when you talk about family stokvels, we think about umasingcwabane, burial, and all that. So why can't you start a stokvel with your favorite sister and brother, in the family? Because the whole idea for me in terms of stokvel is just like how the Jews have done it as a community, as family, Let's bring it home. Let's bring it in the house, because at the moment, we've got the stokvel as abantu abadala. Adults, they've got the stokvel. And then the younger generation is kind of locked out, So we need to actually take this stokvel concept and make it a real home-brewed concept. So you and your favorite cousin, we all have our favorite cousins, we all have our favorite sisters and brothers,
Aunts.
So and aunts and uncle, that aunt that you admire, that you respect, you can start that way, Lindy. Just don't look too far. Don't think about, because we've seen people get disappointed starting a stokvel with 10 friends, or, that's where sustainability becomes a challenge. Just narrow it down a bit, and then you can, of course, grow from starting small and then probably add more people.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Mambusi. So I'm just going to move on to a bit more comments and questions. So there's one where someone is not able to join throughout the entire session. We are going to house the recording on the Stokvel Academy YouTube channel. We will share the link accordingly when we've done that. And then the next questions I'm addressing to Palisa, and I'm going to combine the two because they're related specifically to the awards. So the first question is the competition for stokvels that only bank with Absa? So is it only for Absa banked stokvels? If we can combine your answer with someone is asking, they want to enter the award winning prize. So sorry, this is Vizwa Kanate. We have a social club. Which documents do I need to submit? Yeah, maybe you can address those two.
So the great thing about this initiative is how inclusive it is. You don't need to bank with Absa. You can be banking with any bank. You don't need to even have, we could be using cash, for example, as to think this. So we are inclusive and saying all Stokvels are welcome to participate into this initiative. So it's not only for Absa banked Stokvels. Of course, there's a reward when you do open, when you do bank with Absa or open an account with Absa, because the 100,000 we've been talking about is that it will only get to 100,000 if you do bank with Absa. Of course, terms and conditions apply. So basically, we are saying if you're banking with the Turquoise Bank, you are welcome to enter. Should you win a category, you can win 50,000. But if you are banking with us or you transfer to us, then your award will be doubled to 100,000. So it's the typical. If somebody used to watch the PSL Awards back in the day, it's the same thing that was sponsored by Absa. It's the same thing when we are saying. Everybody is welcome and can win an award category, and but there's an extra reward of doubling if you are part of the family. So that's the only difference. But in terms of inclusivity, very inclusive. Everyone is welcome to participate. The second question you said is around.
The second question, so the one was, what documents do they need?
Again, very convenient when you are Absa, because we are trying to make our Stokvel customers' life much easier. They don't go the same journey as typically as somebody who does not bank with us. So if you're banking with Absa, the only thing that is needed is just the ID of the nominator and the ID of the nominee. The nominee would be the representative of the Stokvel that you are nominating for. So for the Absa Bank Stokvels, your journey is firstly, you automatically meet the criteria. Secondly, your amount should you win a category is gonna be doubled. So if I was a Stokvel banking elsewhere else, I would definitely run to Absa, and I'm not just saying that because I'm in red and black. But honestly, I think these are the type of opportunities that shouldn't my Stokvel people should really try to really take advantage of. But if you feel that 50,000 is enough and you can stay wherever you are, you're still welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Zoli.
Yes.
If you don't bank with Absa, the additional document above the ID is the Constitution.
Okay, perfect. The next question I have is actually kind of related to that. So this is Della. She says, I manage different kinds of Stokvels and I don't have a constitution for them. And one of the conditions of the competition is to have a constitution. How do I go about or go around this one?
So again, the easiest thing would be come to the Red Bank. Then you won't need a constitution, because with our accounts, even when you're opening typically outside the awards, we generally don't want a constitution, because the constitution is built in within our system already. The reason we need a constitution for non-Absa banked people is because how will we prove that you are an actual Stokvel? Remember, we're giving away a lot of money here. Anybody can go become a Stokvel all of a sudden. We can't tell because they're not within our system whether they're a real Stokvel or not. So if you don't have a constitution, you've got two options. Either come the site, because you don't need a constitution when you are Absa banked, or do a constitution that will be able to verify that you are those Stokvels are real Stokvels that you're gonna be entering in the competition in the competition, because that's how we can check validity of your Stokvel.
Thank you for explaining that, Palisa. Just want to remind everybody in the call once again. So We have the link at the top of the screen, absa.co.za/Stokvel Awards. That's where you can get a whole lot more detailed information around the specific questions that have come up that Palisa have spoken to. We're sharing the link as well in the chat, in the Q&A box. So please, you can go and just take a quick look in there. If you have any questions, you can come to any of our social media platforms as well. There's just two more questions I want to take just before we close. There was a question around, so someone is interested in investment stokvels, but they don't know what the success rate looks like. And also they want to know how to protect themselves against scammers. So Kurula, in a minute, I want to give that question to you. Mambusi, let me load you with the question already so that you can follow straight after Kurula. There was a question about stokvel registration. If you can give your perspective around that from a official registration perspective. So Kurula, please, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And as always, it's always great to see people, looking to grow their money. So in terms of, the best way to protect yourself from scammers, and unfortunately they exist and somehow they still find a way of getting through to people, is the old age rule is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If someone is telling you they're going to double your money, in a week, it's probably not legit, because to do that legally is probably going to be quite challenging, if not impossible. So just look out for those kind of words, be patient with the process. When people are making big promises, if things are like deposit now, give us your money, all of these things. So just look out for that. And then in terms of looking for a stokvel or finding one, it does get a bit tricky, because you're almost trying to join people that have started something. But one of the things I urge people to look out for are stokvels or investment clubs that are regulated by the FSCA, so they may have an FSP number. Look out for ones that have been around a lot longer. You don't want something that people just started a week ago. That's also just another way of just protecting yourself from new scammers. So yeah, look out for those kind of things. There's always great stuff lurking around. And I think the success rate is there. If you find something that's genuine and you've done your research, the success rate is there. People are finding good returns with investment stokvels, which is why I think the interest is growing, because people are seeing the rewards that come with investment stokvels.
Thank you, Kurula. Mambusi, in 1 minute.
Okay, thanks.
Taking the clock.
Regarding registration, I'll try. It depends what you want to do. Basic stokvel, just burial, grocery, whatever the basic stuff. You don't really need to be registered. Like Palisa mentioned, that the Constitution is there to help to guide you, the do's and don'ts within your stokvel. That's what we'd call a registration. But if you are looking, for example, at doing things outside, your stokvel room, so to speak, like, someone asked about micro-lending, you have to look at compliance. You need to be compliant with the regulators. Another aspect of registration, if you want to operate as a business, now you go through the normal business registration. You register your stokvel as a company, because now you're getting into the business space. So those are the considerations that you have to take. What do we want to do as a stokvel? What are our goals? Is it just a social stokvel, friendship thing? Keep it simple, don't complicate it. But as soon as you want to do other things that are, need regulation, of course, you have to do your research. What are the registration processes for whatever venture that you want to embark on?
Oh, thank you, Mambusi. I feel like we should have had a longer session, but unfortunately, we only have 2 minutes left. We have a whole lot more questions that we got. Please feel free to visit the Absa social pages or even the Stokvel Academy social network pages to ask any further questions you may have. We are going to post the recording on our YouTube platform. We'll send the link. So I just want to give some closing comments on my side. a note of appreciation to all our attendees for the time investment, which is really a time investment you have put forward by joining the webinar tonight. I trust you are walking away with some tangible nuggets that you can action for the betterment of your stokvel. One of such actions you should take is ensuring that you nominate your stokvel for the Absa Stokvel Awards by going to absa.co.za/Stokvel Awards. Remember, each stokvel could get up to 100,000 rands in cash. There's a total of 1 million rands that stokvels could share in, and the highest prize each stokvel could get is 100,000. Also remember, you can get 2,000 rands just for submitting a nomination before even the final selection. And most importantly, the closing date for nominations is the 30th of September. So you have almost a full month to make sure that you pull through all the nominations that you would like to put in for your stokvels. And last but not least, a big thank you to our incredible and knowledgeable guest speakers for all the insights that they shared this evening. We have come to the end of our session. Good evening and good night. Thank you, everybody. Bye.